All right, it is Thursday, February the 2nd, and it is time for a behind-the-scenes weather model discussion. How's it going, everyone? William Cole here in the Storm Studio, and we are wrapping up day number 4 of our ice storm, but we're almost done with it, so this is good news. Of course, this is our behind-the-scenes look at the forecast of the day, kind of how we've been preparing it. We're going to look at some raw weather data coming up momentarily as well, and again, just kind of getting you prepped with the forecast going forward. Obviously, this is not something we put on our normal channel. This is bonus content. And we typically put this on our Facebook, our Instagram, and our YouTube. So again, if you're seeing it there, obviously, give us a like if you do like what you're seeing. And again, feel free to leave us a comment below or a question below as well. And again, just as always, this is brought to you by our Patreon subscribers. Again, for just $2.99 per month. Again, you can help support this segment, but you can also help support our channel and our free mobile app as well. If that's something you're interested in doing, patreon.com/weather Tracker TV. Again, like I said, $2.99 per month. Those of you who have subscribed, again, we appreciate you as well. So let's dive into it. We got a lot going on and on a bit of a tight schedule today as well. The only reason I say that, I've got to get our normal forecast on here in just a bit. But let's go and kind of get back into the normal flow. We've been doing these later at night the last couple of days, mainly just because we've been on nonstop. I had no time during the afternoon, but we typically do these right around 3:30. Right now it's 3:40, so this is kind of the time that we like to do these, right? So what you're looking at, first of all, I mean, that's a shot of downtown Dallas. You can't see anything. We've got more rain moving back in, and I want to take a look at temperatures here first of all. And if this is your first time watching one of these, we will look at the raw data. Typically when we do these, it's all raw data. The TV graphics we save for on the channel, and this is kind of a separate deal because we're in the middle of this winter storm, this ice storm truly. We're kind of using both, right? Okay. So here's the deal. Temperatures first. All of our western counties, basically 32 to 34. Tarrant County right at 32, but notice DFW, notice Dallas Love at 33, right? So we've got more rain moving back in. Could be a little suspect in Tarrant County where we had more icing over there anyway, and now the temperature's only at 32. This may give just a touch more of a glazing, not impossible over there, right? But other locations, essentially from, the mid-cities, the kind of the DFW, the heart of the Metroplex, again, back over here through Dallas County, being at 33, we're basically good. We've hovered at 33 throughout the day. The temperature never made it to 35 or 36, which we were anticipating. The deal with this Arctic air, it's thick, it's like molasses, we say it all the time, and normally it takes one of two things. You need a southerly wind, which for us is a warming wind, to scour it out, right? We call that warm air advection, or you just need some sun, right? You need some sun to begin to modify the air mass. The last few days, we've had none of that. We've had clouds, we've had precipitation, and that's why this Arctic air mass has just sat here. And again, day by day, we've gone from 28 to 29 to 30 to today 33. So I mean, we're slowly moderating it, but it's a very slow process. But getting into tomorrow, we will do it. The clouds will clear tonight. It's going to be a cold night. We're going to go well back down below freezing, and we will refreeze all the liquid, right? So tomorrow morning's commute, it could be a little dicey, but then as we get into tomorrow, I've lowered our highs. I think we're going to get into the lower to mid 40s now, but lower to mid 40s and sunshine, it's going to do a number. Pretty much all this icing should be gone. I want to look at radar just real quick. I showed you the temperatures just to get to the radar quickly here. Just for the fact, so we saw the temperatures, right? The reason why that was important, again, talking about Tarrant County at 32, Decatur at 32, Mineral Wells at 32. Technically, they're at freezing. Below freezing is when you get a little more concerned, right? But they're at freezing, but this is falling onto, still some icing left over there as well. So again, this is it. This is the finale. We talked about this yesterday. We've been talking about it on the channel throughout the day. It's moving back in. You can see the computer picking up on that temperature profile, right? You can see it's basically trying to color in a little bit of purple. I mean, this is pretty borderline. The only reason why even that would be important is, if right now we are at like 35 and we got a rain coming in, because this will be a moderate rain truly, it would do wonders of actually washing off the ice. I mean, that would be a huge help. we're really not at that point. 32, 33, it'll do something, but again, not as much of a help as we were wanting, right? But regardless, this should come through mostly unimpactful, right? I mean, like I mentioned, there's really no place that's like 31 or 30 or 29. So the opportunity of additional glazing, even at 32, I mean, really isn't there, right? Even though, again, it's falling on ice, right? So we're not looking for the exposed surfaces for it to stick to. It's falling on ice, so we could get some additional glazing, but that ice is already kind of at the point where it may begin to melt. I don't know if that totally makes sense. Freezing rain is so weird that a lot of people, some people think it's just falling as ice, but technically freezing rain, it has to find something freezing that the liquid raindrop sticks to. Okay, so when you're right at 32, you're really not at that threshold, but if you already have a glaze of ice on a power line and you're putting drops on it, right? Think of an ice cube and you put a couple drops on it. What do those drops do? Well, they freeze to the ice cube, right? So it's a weird situation. Freezing rain is weird. It's sometimes hard to explain. When we're talking about snow, we're talking at sleet. It is what it is, and everybody has a good, firm idea of what's going on with that. Okay, one other thing we'll just take a quick peek at here, just the visible satellite. Look at that. Look out in our Texas Panhandle. Look out towards the Permian Basin. That's the end of our storm. There's the cloud cover. I mean, we're, again, going to clear that out. And again, we've got bright sunshine all the way through the weekend. Maybe a storm system next week that could offer us, though, believe it or not, an opportunity of thunderstorms, maybe strong storms. The data's looking a little bit less on that. We'll take a look at that again coming up. So here's what I want to do. I want to actually go ahead and jump. I'm trying to move this around. I've got another browser open over here just for our raw data. Just to jump over to our web page here. And again, this is just weathermodels.com. Again, it's just the weather model page, if you will, or service that I like to use. There's several of them out there that are even free, Pivotal being the one that most people know about. Let's do this. I want to run you through the 850 millibar chart first of all, and I'll zoom this in a little bit. And so this is going to be the overview. This is going to be our pattern, right? So as we're putting together the forecast of the day, this is where we like to start, right? We want to look at the overall pattern and see what's going to be happening. This is the European model, takes us out over the next 10 days. You can see number one, the storm system. And we don't have the telestrator open right now. I can typically draw, for whatever reason, we don't have that open on the computer today, so I apologize, I can't use it. But you see kind of the area of vorticity, the colors, if you will, that are moving through Texas, right? So that's our current storm. That one pulls away, okay? We're quiet through the weekend, temperatures in the 60s over the weekend. I mean, we're loving it, we're doing great. We're living right, okay? Not a lot going on, but take a look at our next storm coming out of the Pacific, right, not coming out of Canada, okay? So we're not as worried about cold air, even though we'll double check that coming up. Here comes our next storm, and look where it moves. You see that the brighter colors is what I'm talking about. So that's an area of vorticity embedded within a storm trough, right? The black lines, those are areas of equal pressure at about 18,000 feet. So that would be a storm trough coming in. But where does it move? Well, it moves right over North Texas. So we get two storms basically back to back in a row. But this one is not necessarily going to be a cold storm. The other storm wasn't a cold storm either. Technically, it came in from the Pacific, but we actually had a front ahead of that storm that dropped down Arctic air. And I mean, the timing of everything we just had, the timing of everything, how it came together, I mean, it really had to come together. What we've just gone through was not just a storm coming through. It was a cold front ahead of it. It was a storm that stalled. Then we had all kinds of turbulent flow ahead of it. Then the storm came out, all while the Arctic air sat and never modified, essentially stayed at the same temperature for 4 days. So that's why this was such a big deal. This was why this was so long duration, right? That doesn't happen very often. Okay, so storm coming through. We're going to check the temperature profile with it, but we know, number one, we've got a storm for Tuesday, okay? It's going to move right across North Texas. But what's happening here? Right behind it, that storm literally pulls away. 2 days later, another storm. And look where it goes. Right, I mean, literally right over the Metroplex. Okay, so now we've got two storms for next week. That's interesting. We'll need to look at those. And then let's go forward in time. Again, this can only go out 10 days. But you see, we've got another huge Pacific storm diving down the west coast that will, at some point, we know it has to come east, eventually come out towards our area as well. Now, the good news is, again, these are coming out of the Pacific. They're not going to bring Arctic air with them. Now we need to just double check this and make sure we don't have anything ahead of them where Arctic air does dip down, right? And we get a repeat of what just happened. Okay, so now we're going to switch over to the 850 millibar chart. And again, this is not surface, but this is just off the surface, right? Sometimes if you're only looking at the surface, it becomes a little cluttered and you really don't necessarily always get a good depiction of what's going on. We're not basing our forecast off of these maps. This is us visualizing the forecast. We're getting the concept in our head, and then again, we're going to plug in the numbers coming up momentarily, right? So all we're doing here is visualizing. And as we're visualizing, sometimes it sounds very elementary, but as you look off to the north, what do you see? You see the blues and the pinks. Well, that means cold, right? So we know the cold air is to the north. We know the lighter blues, the greens, and the yellows are not as cold, okay? Again, it sounds elementary. We'll go further with that, though, coming up. So here we go, going forward in time. Again, we modify our Arctic air mass, it pulls away. Look at that major storm trough moving through New England. They're going to have some crazy, I mean, some folks up there are saying it's a once-in-a-generation cold hit for them up there, but most of it stays truly in New England all the way up through Maine. I mean, they're getting nasty cold up there, okay? That has nothing to do with us, luckily. We're not dealing with that, okay? So here we go forward in time. Let's get you to Tuesday. Here's our weekend. You can just see the moderating trend. Look at that nice moderating trend. But we got that storm coming in on Tuesday, and in fact, you can see the blues associated. You can see a little bit of Pacific air coming in with it. But what we're really looking for is a cold front. That would be a Pacific front, right? We're looking for a true cold front coming in from the north ahead of it that could give us wintry problems. There's not one, okay? So no wintry problems. But again, on the flip side, we're going to look for maybe thunderstorm problems with that one, okay? So here comes that one. You can see a little bit of blue. Again, a Pacific front comes with it. Here comes the next storm. Again, behind it, right on its heels. Again, a little bit of cold air up to the north in the northern tier, because you have to worry about cold air also funneling down into these troughs as well, right? Again, typically when they're coming in from the west coast, it's not much of a problem, but if they get a little higher latitude, it's never impossible, like up towards the Intermountain West, that they allow some Arctic air to spill down into them, okay? Not the case for this one. Again, you can see we turn a little cooler. I mean, definitely, you see the blue showing up. There's definitely a cold front, but again, the Arctic air stays to the north. But you can see as that same trough, the same one that moves through here, doesn't really give us any problems. Look as that trough deepens, heading over into the deep south and the southeast. See how that Arctic air pools down into it? That's what we have to watch for this time of year as well. But again, that's off to our east, right? So we leave off there, that's day 10. And I mean, just looking off to the west, we know we've got the one Pacific storm system coming in. It has no Arctic air with it. So over the next 10 days, I mean, no real big cold blast, right? We've got some cool downs, we know that, but there's no real big cold blast. Again, we will put the actual numbers with that here in just a second. The final piece of this, and when we do the forecast, truly there's more things that we look at, but I'm just trying to run you through this pretty quickly too, and I've also got to hurry a little bit here too. So, okay, so we know the storm, we know the air mass, that we're not having a significant air mass change, right? It's pretty much steady as she goes. So let's see what that storm does as far as what we call QPF. Is there going to be any precipitation with it? And again, when you're looking at a global model like this, the European, and the reason we're using this one is because we're looking out for 10 days. The high-res data, like the future radar that we show on TV, that's a short-term product that literally shows each and every hour or every 15 minutes, and it depicts a radar presentation, right? A global model does not do that, okay? The main reason why, it's forecasting for North Texas the same as it's forecasting for Antarctica or England, right? So the resolution, even though the Euro, over the years, the resolution has gotten a lot better, it's not able to do a future radar depiction. So what it shows us are signals over a 6-hour time frame as we go through the day of where it thinks there could be some precipitation. So it's never a for sure completely locked in deal where the precip is, but we're knowing in our area, is it giving us signals that, hey, there could be some rain, there could be some storms, there could be some wintry weather, okay? So when you look at this, remember, that's how you have to look at it, not as a future radar product. And again, you'll see it looks like blobs. It doesn't look like a radar, okay? So we're dry through the weekend. We already know that. Here comes that storm. This will be Tuesday morning. Here's Tuesday afternoon. Now, the big deal is the latest data here has kind of begun to shift this off to the east, right? It's showing by late afternoon, could we maybe have some showers and thunderstorms developing near the 35 corridor? Or is there going to be a better probability a little bit further to the east, right? That's what we're going to be watching for. And there'll be a little, as we get deeper into the spring, it would be a dry line. Right now, it's just the Pacific cold front. But again, you can see the Pacific cold front wrapped up into it, and then on the back side of the storm, on the cold side, where the northerly winds are coming down and around, look up in Oklahoma, look up in our Texas Panhandle, those folks will even see some snow up there, okay? So chilly enough for snow. Then again, you can see the darker greens. That line, that would be by Tuesday night and early Wednesday morning, that line energizes. So our probability in North Texas, you see it, not as great. In fact, maybe even nothing develops now. But again, as that continues to push off to the east along that Pacific cold front, you can see it basically energize with active weather. And again, climatologically speaking, this time of year, January, now we're in February, where do you typically see storms and severe weather this time of year? It's off to our east, Louisiana, parts of Arkansas, parts of the Deep South. This is their severe weather season. They're in it right now. So climatologically speaking, what typically happens, that would also make sense. With that being said, I've still got a 40% probability for Tuesday. We may need to dial that down. We'll see. And then here comes our next weather maker. This will be for Friday, again, on its heels. And again, similar story. This one doesn't really pose as much of a thunderstorm opportunity for us. Again, you can kind of see everything wrapped up almost like a little comma. Big area of low pressure, again, moves right over the metroplex. In fact, the core, you can see the little donut hole right there. The core of this storm literally moves right over the metroplex, the area of low pressure. Similar story, again, on the backside, again, where it's colder, the northerly winds coming down. There's an opportunity of snow in our Texas Panhandle and again, out into parts of Oklahoma as well. So, I mean, both of those still need to be watched, right? Again, the snow, not because there's a big Arctic blast, we don't have Arctic air, but again, just on the back cold core of this, again, sometimes they can produce snow. And again, that's what it's showing. Then where I'm going with this is, say it comes in a little bit further south, there's no guarantee that we would still be cold enough to maybe see some snow, but it's within the realm of possibilities this time of year with any of these systems. So until all this is locked in, we got to track it. But right now, there's a more likelihood that we may see some thunderstorms again on Tuesday. Let's take a quick peek at that. Then, like I said, we've really got to begin to wrap this up. We'll look at raw numbers then, and then we'll wrap this up. And this is available potential energy, what we call CAPE or instability. And it's really not that impressive from what I looked at earlier today. And that's it right there. There's your Tuesday. And I mean, it's giving us, like 300 joules maybe-ish, right? So that's not much. In the spring, I mean, we could be dealing with, kind of a minimal threshold for us is like 1,000. I mean, it can go up to 5,000 and 6,000, right? When we're talking about instability. There's other parts of the country, though, if they get 500 joules of instability or 1,000, it's like a crazy severe weather day. In the Southern Plains, we're on a different level, right? I mean, we don't, that doesn't really do much for us. So there could be some thunder with this, depending on how this plays out, could still be some strong storms. But this run of the data, remember, we get these every 12 hours, not looking, honestly, really not advertising much. And then we'll take a look at that next system. Similar story, just not advertising much at all. A little bit of instability around, but again, nothing to get worked up about. Okay, let's look at some raw numbers quickly here. And then, like I said, I got to rock and roll. Okay, it's just after 4 o'clock, so I'm still good on time. This is just the high-res data, first of all. Let me see if I can, man, you guys really can't see that. Let me see. Okay, let me try this one. It's not much better. But this is the high-res data for number one for tonight. So the HER model here is getting us down to about 30 tonight, okay, actually 29 to 30. So again, that's giving us that opportunity of refreeze in the morning, okay, so we already know about that. And then for tomorrow, the HER, I think it's too warm. I mean, it's advertising like 46, 47. Bright sunshine, it could happen, but, typically when you're still kind of scouring out some Arctic air, I'm not believing it. In fact, I'm siding here with the blend of models, and the blend of models 43. In fact, that's what I have for tomorrow. The blend a little bit chillier down to 26 tonight. So again, depending on how cold it gets tonight, similar story, even with the refreeze, right? 30, 31, you'll get some refreeze, but you get down to 26, and that's a harder freeze. And I think the 26 is honestly probably going to be more likely. That's actually what I have, only for the fact the temperatures just did not move. The high-res data today was taking us up to about 36 or 37. We were stuck at 33. It didn't happen. So its overnight low is a little bit warmer because it was thinking we would be a little bit warmer this afternoon. That didn't happen. From 33, clearing skies, Arctic air in place, I think 26, and we could even even be a little bit colder than that tonight, to be honest with you. So there we go. We build temperatures into the weekend, back into the 60s. All that looks good. And then again, you can see going forward, there's a couple dips as those systems come through down into the 50s. The following Saturday, down into the mid 50s. Sorry, I'm starting to lose my voice. I've been talking so much the last couple of days. That's why I just got a coffee. Luckily, all the coffee places are back open now around here, around our studio. So I've been able to go get real coffee today. But anyway, so back to this. Again, mid 50s. Again, no big cold blast showing up. And truly, after Saturday morning, even for overnight lows, we stay above freezing. Right. So for February, overnight lows above freezing. Daytime highs in the 50s and 60s. We have 2 more opportunities of rain when January and February, typically pretty dry. We just got this rain coming out of January into February. 2 more rain opportunities, maybe a little bit of thunder, but probably not really that big of a deal. In the grand scheme of things, this is a pretty good looking forecast, right? I mean, truly, it really is. So that's where we are, folks. Again, like I mentioned, thanks for joining us here on the weather model discussion. Again, it was still a little disjointed today. We're kind of all over the place. But again, as we're wrapping up this winter storm, I did want to cover all of that and then also throw in some of this high res data and some of this raw data, because I know you guys like seeing that as well. That's the whole point of doing these. By the way, quickly, if you have not downloaded our free mobile app, be sure to do that. It's one of the other ways you can actually watch our live channel. It's literally on there right when you open it. My 12-day forecast, all of our forecast maps, live radar, all of that kind of good stuff is on there. And also our breaking weather alerts as well. Otherwise, again, a big thanks to our Patreon subscribers again for making this possible, and again, everything else. Thanks for watching today. We'll do another one of these tomorrow. And again, otherwise, enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening. Stay warm, stay safe, and again, try and stay off of the roads as much as possible until tomorrow.